Hey, what's up guys, Mashin here, come back with a brand new video for you guys. Today we're going to be talking about everything to do with Antwerp and more specifically dialing in on the recent Antwerp crash that just happened about a day or two ago that you probably haven't heard of, but let's hop on into it. Now to know what I'm talking about, you gotta really see what had gone down on the Steam community market. If you had logged in and you saw something like this, you probably would have thought something significant had changed, and while there was something that changed, it wasn't really that significant. A lot of capsules went down in price because of one big thing, and that's another currency conversion issue. We can really see this by looking over to other capsules that can be bought on Steam, such as the Enfu capsule here. You can see that there's a lot of those spike drop downs, meaning that something had been sold for relatively cheap compared to the normal price, which can only be a result of something being able to be bought for a cheaper price, which leads into the theory that this was definitely a currency conversion issue. Now, while this Antwerp crash was due to a currency conversion issue, there are some bigger things that have resulted from this because of the actual currency conversion issue. The first thing, and more importantly than the currency conversion issue in my opinion, is the fact that we're seeing a lot of investor doubt. A lot of people are not going to pay attention to this that was because of a currency issue, but rather that the Antwerp capsule went down in price significantly. As you can see here with the Challengers capsule, down 16% off of what is the bare minimum price Valve sells it for with no sales tax, meaning that you could potentially pick it up for 21 cents during that time, which is absolutely crazy considering that if you look on Buff, I mean, even the cheapest there is 17 cents, which is really low already, but if you can pick it up with 21 cents in Steam funds, that's just crazy. Now, the crash itself has pretty much already recovered. Most of the capsules are seeing a 25-cent price point. The biggest thing that I'm scared about moving forward is that we're seeing a lot of investor doubt because of something like this. People look at the fact that there was someone selling at 21 cents and start to realize that they might be losing out if they don't sell right away. A lot of panic sellers come around when something like this happens because they are very scared on losing out on their investment. Now, one thing I find really interesting is you can tell a lot of these people are not seasoned major investors, and that would make sense considering that most of the people who are investing into majors probably didn't do it in the past because they're starting to get into CSGO, and this is the first decent investment that everyone has a shot at. In my opinion, you can see a lot of people that are kind of over speculating and overthinking the quantity on the market. Quantity on the market is definitely a factor, but it should not be the end all be all. It gives you a rough estimate, and in my opinion, it should really only be used to compare certain capsules to other certain capsules in the same major. If we check in on two past majors, looking at Berlin here, there was over 1 million listings just on one capsule alone. Same with Katowice here, there was a ton of listings as well for this major, and I think one thing people are really starting to pay too much attention to is honestly the listing numbers. And I think this comes from the fact that we saw Stockholm with one capsule that was just so low in quantity listed the entire time and no one really paid attention to it. So now everyone's looking at quantity listing, thinking it's the end all be all of investing, thinking it's the only thing that determines a good investment when we know obviously it is not. Now, when we look long term, there's probably not going to be much of an impact because of this. We saw it with Stockholm in the Turkish lira incident over there, that Stockholm turned out well as an investment, even though it had its struggles with currency issues itself. Now, I don't think that those are necessarily equivalent examples. I think the Turkish lira was definitely more of a prominent example. A lot more people know about it, and there was a lot bigger issue because of it. But even here with Antwerp, I think there is going to be a little bit of an issue short term, as we can already see that the capsules are sitting at 25 cents instead of the 26, 27 they were. But at the same time, when we're speaking in terms of a couple months, there's probably not going to be much of an impact then. One thing that has played a big impact though, and especially looking at right now, is the Antwerp ROI, specifically talking about when you open up a capsule, how much on average are you going to be receiving back? Now, this is something that I've talked about pretty extensively over the entirety of Antwerp. We've seen it go as high as 105 to 108% and as low as what we're going to see today. Looking at the numbers today, you can see on the right is the old numbers from about a week and a half ago. On the left is the current numbers, and you can see that we're down significantly all across the board. The highest we've got is 71.2 in the Contenders capsule, and the lowest we've got is 62.4 in the Legends capsule. This is extremely low but when we put it in terms of Stockholm, it's roughly equivalent of where Stockholm was when I compared it during the beginning of Antwerp. So it's probably pretty close to leveling out or reaching its equilibrium, at least at this point. Now, I can't say something like this is unexpected. However, I didn't really expect it to drop down this low, especially with that Challengers capsule. I thought that one would at least stay around that 70% and the Contenders probably around 75%. But I can't say this is really too surprising, especially when we look at our autograph data, which I haven't updated in around a month. You can tell that the capsules that really have one expensive thing are going to stand out. Here you can see with the autograph and the Rocks Hollow. Now, talking about Antwerp sale length and how long we're really going to be seeing these Antwerp capsules for, honestly, it's getting to the point where it's roughly going to be pulled any day now, hopefully. Obviously, no one's got any specific answer on what the date is going to be. We've talked about dates in the past that probably would have been decent, especially when they released a new case. I'm honestly a bit surprised we saw the recoil case come out, but we didn't see Antwerp pulled during those times. It was a little interesting to see that, but overall, I do think that Antwerp is probably going to be pulled in the next 2 weeks, hopefully. I mean, there's not really much you can say other than let's just hope it gets pulled. Now, the one big thing I do want to actually hit on is what could crash Antwerp in the future. I don't consider this one a long-term crash, but there's a lot of different things that could create a long-term crash, and we got to talk about it. First up, obviously, is going to be a good Rio sticker. If we see a Rio sticker that's just another exact copycat like we saw from Stockholm to Antwerp, it's probably not going to be turning out very well for the Antwerp stickers, and I think everyone knows that. But there's a couple other ones that not too many people are paying attention to. First up, an operation. Now, an operation is not going to impact us in the year length we're talking. If we're talking over a couple years, an operation probably isn't going to be changing too much, but when we're talking about the short term, we see a lot of things crash during an operation, especially those that are very liquid or very, very popular investments, and that's one of which going to be falling into the Antwerp capsule. A lot of people are invested into the Antwerp capsule, and that's something that we could see drop dramatically if we see an operation come in the next year or so. Now, an operation is probably going to be coming up in the next 6 months, which means we are going to see an eventual Antwerp crash because of the operation. Now, that's probably going to be, once again, pretty short-lived because there's going to be a decent amount of people looking to buy into Antwerp, but we could potentially during that time see prices that are very similar to what we see now. We could see a lot of gains wiped out as people think, I bought it in for 25 cents, the capsule is now sitting at 27 cents. After Steam tax, I'm going to be getting roughly my money back. Why wouldn't I? The one thing I do want to throw in here at the end is make sure you're doing your own research. My Antwerp profits are not going to be your Antwerp profits. And if you don't invest in, or I don't invest in, or whoever does it, it's all on an independent system. I'm not going to specifically cash out my profits and hand it out to you in the same way I wouldn't expect you to give your profits to me. So make sure you're doing your own investment research because the only person that's going to be held responsible is you. What I would suggest is not taking anything at face value. Make sure you're looking at some facts and actual logical reasoning when you're deciding if you should invest or not, and not just taking someone's opinion at face value. But as always, guys, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.